When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind-A-Wai with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The 18 that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind-A-Wai for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind-A-Wai for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the mic.
Hello, everybody, and to you on the Café, you're thinking, what? You guys have just given me 37 minutes of incredible news, analysis, and thoughts to leave this podcast with. Well, that's what you get when you go XL at postwrestlingcafe.com. You get me and Wai. We start at a lull and we just work our way up and up and up and up. And now we're rolling as we go into Raw.
We're on fire. Yeah, we're like a good Kazuchika Okada 30-minute main event. And you just sat through maybe the first, maybe hour-long main event, because we just went about 37 minutes there, talking about today's stories.
I have a question you may or may not have been expecting tonight. Wai, as a high schooler, were you a regular or even occasional viewer of Electric Circus?
I don't know if I was ever like a sit down and watch Electric Circus type of show, type of person, but I've channel surfed Electric Circus. Yeah.
Oh,
why?
Well, do you remember one of the hosts, Juliet Powell?
Of course. Yeah.
She died.
You're kidding.
It just came out. She died just a couple of days ago.
Oh
she was
God.
only, I believe, 54. She had
Wow.
It was like a form of like meningitis that she had, and she was my favorite. I loved Electric Circus, and she was like the host during my years of like watching that show. I loved Julia Powell.
Yeah, that's really sad. That's very young, and you're right. I did not expect you to start us off with that. But our condolences. That's very unfortunate.
Yes, she was Miss Canada in 1989.
Do you ever wonder like where all those VJs are these days?
Sometimes. I saw that like Jennifer Hollett posted a thing about Juliet Powell, so I saw her online. I thought Ed Kersner at the Sock, or no, Steven Kersner posted a thing. Steven Kersner is still out. He still does radio.
Still pretty active, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are some like Bradford
Rick Campanelli
Howe?
still doing
Rick Campanelli is still like on the Canadian media scene every now and then.
Sure.
But
who's your favorite? Did you have a favorite? George Stroumboulopoulos.
You know what? I like George Stroumboulopoulos. He wasn't my favorite.
He's probably my favorite. I mean, if we're talking straight up VJ, I like At the Sock. I liked I'm trying to think.
What was the Asian woman's name?
Soo-Kin Lee. I met Soo-Kin Lee.
Yeah, she was very good.
She's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. There was
Damian Abraham, maybe my favorite.
I was gonna say that one, but it would feel like a hometown decision there. But
okay.
Yes.
All right. Kathleen Rasp.
Yep.
Are we just gonna name?
We could go through a lot. There were quite a lot of them that surfaced over at the corner of Queen and John.
All right.
Well, everybody, this week post wrestling, we have a lot coming at you. We are going to be heading for some California Dreamin' later this week. We're not. This is not a trip to California. Instead, it is Katsuyori Shibata taking over the LA Dojo in 2018. We have a 5-part doc series to go through. But these are all kind of they're each like 20-minute pieces. So these are not like lengthy parts.
I would almost consider them like 30-minute episodes, with the commercials taken out. So 23 minutes in content, 5 episodes, and documenting Katsuyori Shibata's post Sakura Genesis, career-ending injury.
This is like a year and a half after the Okada injury, and here's a guy in the prime of his career. His career is cut short, and he's trying to reinvent himself now as a trainer. So obviously, the heavy focus is on Shibata, but plenty of focus on a young Clark Connors, a young Carl Fredericks, a young Alex Coughlin, and Buddy Garcia as well.
I mean, I just found it really fascinating to because this is felt like a purely New Japan, Japanese production. But I've always been fascinated at people moving from one country to another, and just maybe some of the culture shock that somebody may experience, but also trying to start a business. So we're getting a bit of a glimpse into not just Shibata, but I think the way a New Japan will at that point try to transplant or at least develop a bit of a side business here in North America.
So that's going to be the focus of Rewind-A-Wai this coming Thursday for all members at postwrestlingcafe.com. We're also going to be bringing you this week a special show dedicated to New Japan Dominion, as Bruce Lord and Karen Peterson will get together to review one of the big events on the New Japan calendar each year. So that will be coming your way on Sunday, and of course, plenty of free shows coming your way, including Pollock and Thurston on Wednesday. Wai will be with Kate from Montreal Wednesday night after Summer Blockbuster into the wee hours of Thursday morning, chatting about that show. And then the week caps off with the NWA podcast on Sunday evening. Plenty for them to always talk about, and no shortage this week.
I am very much looking forward to some of their takes on the recent Ron Killings goings.
Lots to dissect, and I look forward to it with Chris, Nate, and the whole NWA podcast crew. So that is coming up this week. Postwrestling.com and postwrestlingcafe.com. Tonight, Raw was at the PHX Arena in Phoenix, Arizona, the former Footprint Center. So it looks like this arena is in transition from one corporate overlord to another.
PHX, is that an actual brand, or is that just a short form for Phoenix?
I think that's just Phoenix. I think, unless correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's just their name until they get a new sponsor for the arena. Okay. Didn't dissuade anyone from attending because WrestleTix reported 13,654. Michael Cole announced over 14. So I mean, they just filled this place.
That's the Nikki Bella effect.
Yeah, clearly, and they were gonna get their big Nikki Bella angle for tonight. Wade Barrett was filling in for Pat McAfee with Michael Cole for the rest of the night, and out to start the show is John Cena in his Phoenix Suns inspired gear, and has Alicia Taylor do the Mark Nash role of introducing him as he enters, and Cena cuts his promo that the people, they wasted their energy saving a sideshow attraction whose greatest accomplishment is impersonating me. The crowd is chanting, "We want truth," and Cena calls them spineless keyboard warriors. See, this is the part when Paul Levesque was biting his tongue at the press conference. He was inspired to write John Cena's promo immediately after that press conference, I bet. He says that you are ignorant armchair.
You need a spine to sit in a computer chair, okay?
Yeah, that's always a good point. This was absolutely contradictory.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Unless it was one of those maybe like ball chairs, the ones that don't have a back.
You still need a spine. You need a spine, especially for those exercise balls.
Yeah, I would. There's nothing you could do without a spine, pretty much.
Like a non-functioning spine, I suppose.
Yeah.
You could maybe still do stuff. Yeah.
He calls them ignorant armchair activists with no real power to change anything. R-Truth is a gimmick who you will spit out and care nothing about within a year. So we'll circle back in a year and see if this proves to be true. Where will R-Truth be in a year?
Well, will he still be in the company?
He might be done within a year. I don't know if he's going to be around for a year. So that's a good point. He says you'll never use him to benefit one of your. He will never be used to benefit one of your garbage pity parties ever again. This is my farewell tour, damn it. And he puts up the countdown. We started at 36 dates, and now we are down to 19. We are halfway through the John Cena retirement run, and tells them to use your voice to send me some competition. I've beaten all of the best, from Cody, Orton, and R-Truth, the big three, don't send me some competition, not the class clown. And there comes CM Punk. And he comes to the ring and has a lot to get off his chest. He says, Cena, you will listen to what I have to say. And says how, isn't it funny how you, the cowboy, is trying to ruin the establishment, and me, I'm defending it. But then he makes it clear, I do not stand for TKO or the billionaires, but the people. And he says
Did he call him a cowboy?
He did. He called John Cena the cowboy.
What would that mean?
He meant to say I
thought he meant like corporate, like Boy Scout or something.
He called him a Boy Scout too, and I think he was,
cowboy and a Boy Scout.
You could be both.
Can't be both. Really? Okay.
Maybe. He says that the people picked me in 2011, and he defends Cody, saying he's the best we've got, and you've managed to win with shortcuts and cheap shots. And he acknowledges we are all spokes on a wheel. There you go. There's our union talk moving its way into WWE programming. We're all spokes on a wheel. Cena, you are too. And I'm going to take that title off your shoulder. And said how I go back to Elimination Chamber where you and I squared off for the first time in 10 years. And you deceived the people because of our interaction, I gave Wai Ting a false hope that you could still go based on that interaction we had in Toronto. He was constantly leaning on this interaction, all because of CM Punk. He says, you didn't hesitate after Seth stomped me to yank me back into the ring and use the AA. And what did you say to me? I'm sorry. Because, John, you know what you're doing is wrong. It's like, wait a minute. He said he was sorry before the turn. So this doesn't really work for the timing of this whole thing. Like him saying he was sorry at Elimination Chamber. I mean, he was still a good guy by that point.
Even more sorry now.
Well, now he is. He says that Cena, you know what you're doing is wrong. The crowd's pelting him with you sold out chants, and he's going to take the belt and make Cena crisscross this country apologizing to all of these people and says how the belt has corrupted Cena, just like it did to me in 2012. When I returned, my goal was not to win the title. It's like, wait a minute. There was a lot of stuff in this promo that it sounded great because it's coming from CM Punk. But this dude, his whole story has been this title. And going into the Royal Rumble was like, I need to headline WrestleMania. And by default, go for this title.
Well, I guess his argument is, I never wanted the title. I only wanted the main event, WrestleMania, and having the title is my best chance at being there.
Okay. So he's actually doing a disservice by going for this title to himself.
The title just happens to be a byproduct of main event WrestleMania.
Okay. Well, I was trying to follow all of this logic as best I could. He says that I was afraid of the man I would become by becoming champion, but I now see what it's done to you, and I have to become a monster to stop the monster. That belt to you and Rollins is a symbol of power and control, but to me, I believe it belongs to the people. And I want to face you tonight, right here. And Cena thinks about it, and he says, let's do it, but not tonight. And he says, if you want this title, you're going to have to follow me all the way to Saudi Arabia. For if you are going to have to create a scenario to get Punk to reluctantly travel to Saudi Arabia and mortgage his morals, I thought you did as best you could in this scenario with heel John Cena. And he said to Punk, the ball's in your court, hero. And Punk, as he had to, if we could get into a visual here of like the graphic from like A Beautiful Mind, and it takes us back to his tweet at The Miz and the blood-covered item.
Do you truly feel like that was any part of like the thought process into creating this moment? Like, here's CM Punk, somebody who I think many people know, famously called out WWE wrestlers in the past for accepting blood money, criticizing their just association with Saudi Arabia in general. Now he's not only appearing in a Saudi Arabia show, he's about to headline a Saudi Arabia show. Do you believe this interaction was crafted to perhaps make the character or even the person of CM Punk feel justified in going?
I think that was definitely, I mean, the way Cena set this up was, if you know Punk's aversion to going to Saudi Arabia, this makes sense to you. But they didn't play this up in any meaningful way. It's not like you had the announcers from, he doesn't agree with the government of Saudi Arabia. This is he's so conflicted.
Yeah. What was the tweet? I need to pull this up.
I don't. Well, we might get flagged if we read it. It was let's say blood-covered fellatio is basically the theme
Okay,
of CM Punk's tweet.
tells The Miz, go suck a blood money covered dick in Saudi Arabia. So that was
I was waiting for Michael Cole to cite the tweet, but that was not done here. Obviously, they're not going to lean on this, but to me, this was one if you know, you know, because that was Cena's like setup here was like, you want this title, you've got to. I thought they could have played a little with this, but this is a massive partner of yours that I don't think they're going to make a storyline that one of their biggest baby faces has a moral opposition to going to this country.
I guess for me, even if that was the attempt of this segment, I don't think it worked at all. I don't think there's anything you can do to make CM Punk, to the people who know about this tweet, to make him not look like a hypocrite in any of this. It's a bad look.
On top of it, it's not like you even had like Punk having to contemplate or like he immediately just says, yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Like there was no thought, there was no conflict, there was no like, staring at my hands looking for an answer. It was just, I'll come. That was it.
Like, so, I mean, and I'm sure he, Phil Brooks himself understands exactly what's going on here.
This was ripping off the Band-Aid because this guy was going to have to go to Saudi Arabia. If not now, next year for the Rumble. And that was, you had to do this.
When you say have to, what do you mean by that?
I think Punk was not going to be sitting out the Rumble next year, for instance. And I think but if he truly demanded it, don't you think he could have done it? Oh, he could have, but obviously he wants to be a team player here. Like he's doing it. Like he's like, I don't think there's a gun to his head to have to do this.
So then let me ask, what was the Miz doing in going to Saudi Arabia? That Punk. So
I'm not defending. Like he's
bottom line. He's a hypocrite, or at the very least somebody who has changed his stance on this, and that's something I think he has to be very open and honest about in a dialogue with the audience, who sees him as a truthful, authentic person.
Does he give any kind of explanation for this? Is he going to be in a scenario where someone's going to even ask him about this?
I think his next promo, like if I haven't seen the reaction online, if it's anything like how I felt coming off of this promo, I think the CM Punk, like we know, will probably address it in some way, maybe with a witty line. But I just think it demands a little bit, because like this entire promo, which was great from Punk, talking about how, I'm here, like, you're the corporate ass kisser and I'm the rebels who now isn't answering to the final boss. I'm here to answer for the people. All of this stuff made him sound great. But I just thought, like, ending the segment with the realization that he is main eventing a show in Saudi Arabia, I thought just completely killed his credibility as any sort of like, genuine voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this was somewhat like you could see Punk somewhat cushioning this a few weeks ago when he was taking questions on his Instagram live, and someone had asked him about why do you hate Saudi Arabia? Something to that effect. And his response was, I don't hate coming to Saudi. I've never been to Saudi. I mean, I think you saw right there that, hey, this is the second he returned to WWE, it's like, he's a smart guy. He's going to realize that, you know what, this is probably going to be something I am going to have to do at some point. And he has not done any of the Saudi shows up till this point. Now, some of them he's been hurt, so there's been that. He hasn't had to necessarily do that, but here you are.
He'll be doing them from this point on.
Like, and
it's fine. It's fine. He's within his rights to. I just think for somebody who I think holds himself in such high regard as like a genuine non-bullshitter, this is something he's going to have to confront with the audience.
Yeah, and we'll see if he does. I mean, I would be very interested if the Rumble was not there next year. Like, was that a tipping point at all? Like, I'm not missing that significant of a show versus one of these traditional Saudi shows. And if this guy goes another like 2 or 3 years, there's probably going to be a Mania there too.
I'm also curious, like, okay, so if people are still getting these bonuses for these Saudi shows, does Punk do something in a similar way to like what an Ali did with his bonus?
I don't know how much like the bonuses are even figured in at this point. Like largely it sounds like what your contract says is what you're making at this stage. Like they're being paid so much, and a Punk would certainly be of that. I don't even know if there's necessarily like that financial incentive to be doing these shows at this point. There might be some. We'll see. I think that there's a lot of performers. I would assume that they would just do a 180 and they're not going to address it at all. We'll see if Punk does. If not, I don't know if he's going to be in any kind of interview scenario where he's going to be asked about this, but he might himself. Live? He could potentially, but
it's just if it was anybody else, I don't think we'd even bat an eye. But because it's CM Punk, I think it demands these questions because he has asked these questions himself of others.
Do you think if in a scenario where a Britt Baker comes to WWE, like she famously did that promo on AEW referring to like blood money in Saudi Arabia.
No, I don't think she'll get similar attention because she's not CM Punk. But yeah, maybe some will still ask. It just won't be as big of a deal because again, Punk is somebody who has carried himself as somebody who tells the truth. So I think he just needs to tell the truth about this. His own truth, whatever that is.
You can't handle the truth. We got the brackets for the Queen and King of the Ring. So we have, my God, these photos. It's 16 people per tournament. So we have 32 people between these two tournaments that are going to be whittled down because of these fatal four-ways. Are you ready for, remember when they did that one-off pay-per-view of all fatal four-way?
Oh my God. Yeah.
They did. It was one and done. They never did another one after it. But that's what this felt like when I saw.
It's a fine TV show concept, but man, for a pay-per-view, no.
I look at this graphic, and on paper, this feels like a month-long tournament, and really, it's like 2 weeks, and it's 2 matches to get to the finals. So anyway, these are going to be whittled down very quickly. So, do you? I guess the noteworthy thing here is next week, it will be Sheamus, Rusev, Bronson Reed, and a mystery man that they will reveal. And then we've got matches on SmackDown, matches on Raw, and then interpromotional semifinals. And then the finals will be June 28th in Riyadh.
Yeah. So that was one of the main things, which at this point I feel could very well be influenced by the main event result tonight. I could see Jey Uso taking that last spot. Also, this is
one where they do have like most of your main, like they need people. So I mean, outside of a Rollins who has the briefcase, like all your big guys are attached to this tournament.
Well, I mean, Levesque seemingly loves his multi-person qualifying matches, and I think the matches turn out great first of all, but they also turn into very good storytelling devices to help you springboard to your storylines for people who don't make it to the rest of the tournament. So, I mean, I know that there's maybe some multi-man qualifying match fatigue, but I certainly welcome it, especially if the match quality is what it is. They also announced the return of Asuka in the women's bracket as well.
Yeah, we got a video for her later. She's been out since May. She's been out for 13 months, so it's been a lengthy absence for Asuka, who will be wrestling next Monday on the show. On to the first match of the show. It is Chad Gable and AJ Styles. Gable is selling all the effects of his matches on Saturday, or match, singular, if you're Wade Barrett. The Creeds are there, so they distract AJ as he's yanked to the floor. We go through the commercial break, and Gable lifts up AJ, and he just folds this guy's neck with this high-angle German suplex. And then Gable leaps off the top for the leaping headbutt, and when he lands it, he grabs his forehead. And I'm thinking, this is such a clever move that he got caught up thinking he was El Grande Americano and he didn't have the protective object in his forehead. I thought this was like one of the most clever spots on a WWE match in quite some time.
I mean, there's a lot of fun you could really have with this dual identity thing, and we barely scratched the surface. Like, can you imagine maybe El Grande Americano suffering a body part injury that somehow Chad Gable has to hide, in his regular alter ego matches?
I was hoping Gable and El Grande would be on opposite sides of like the bracket for the King of the Ring. I guess we should mention AJ is not in the tournament either. So,
right.
AJ takes him off the turnbuckle for a power bomb and then goes for the Styles Clash. Julius saves Gable. So Styles takes out the Creeds, goes for the phenomenal forearm, and as he's in springboard mode, he gets his ankle grabbed, and Styles is put into the ankle lock. Instant callback here to all the AJ Kurt matches from TNA. And Styles gets out, and then he hits what Wade calls the Flash Clash, as he just grabs Gable and gives him like this snap Styles Clash out of nowhere to win in 7:57, and it's Styles hobbling on his ankle afterwards, selling the submission.
I like it. Do you like it, Flash Clash?
Sure, I'll take it. Why not?
Really great little TV bench that just continues to show you how valuable of a wrestler Chad Gable is. He's somebody who just, I think he's really, getting his flowers now, especially with this El Grande Americano thing. But like, being able, working like the quality of match he worked at Worlds Collide, and then like the performance he had, like being one of the more focal points of that Money in the Bank ladder match. But now just even 2 days later, having a great match with AJ Styles. He really is so incredibly consistent and just excellent. So Styles gets his win back. Which leads me to think they must be building him up for something.
They should be. I mean, that guy had what a Saturday he had between both matches. I mean, that was incredible.
I'm talking about Styles.
Oh, I was talking about Gable. Yeah, Styles. I mean, they're building him up for something, but omitting him from this tournament. So, I mean, we'll get to the promo later, but it seems to be him getting involved with at either Judgment Day or with something with Rollins, either, like to maybe keep Rollins busy as well. Liv Morgan is with Roxanne Perez. They're both coming up in the Fatal 4-Way, and Perez suggests that they work together, and Liv has no interest in this and lays out her plan that she's going to win this match, beat EO, and take the title. So there's Liv Morgan, Roxanne Perez, Kairi Sane, and Rhea Ripley in our Queen of the Ring match. Wade Barrett notes that by winning this tournament, you get a great crown, a great nickname for a year, but the real prize is the title shot. Yeah, great nicknames like King Barrett.
Things are a bit better than when he won it.
Yeah, I mean,
you get saddled with an awful gimmick for a year. Is what
yeah,
you get.
yeah. Him and Sheamus really set the bar high as King of the Ring winners during that period. So Perez keeps saving Liv, and then the two get on the same page, and they're doing these double team maneuvers on Ripley and Kairi. There's a super kick backstabber combo, and then they high five as Rhea rises from the corner going after both. Rhea stops an Oblivion and goes for the Riptide when Raquel appears on the floor grabbing Rhea. They fight on the floor. Sane takes out both coming off the top, and then with Liv, it's an insane elbow delivered to Liv, but Perez jumps in with a bridging jackknife, pinning Kairi and stealing the pin at 12 minutes and 52 seconds. So Liv is out and Roxanne Perez advances to the semifinal. I like the setup for this finish at the end and what they're doing with Liv and Perez, who were the main focus of this match. And to a degree, it seems like spinning off Rhea with Raquel Rodriguez as she's out of the tournament.
I like the finish too. It wasn't that Roxanne pin Liv off of Kairi's insane elbow. It was that she pinned Kairi just by the element of surprise, so she could still, which she eventually made the argument that I saved you, Liv, from getting pinned, while at the same time giving herself the victory. I thought this was an excellent match. Like this women's division on Raw has really, really been shining lately, and I think all these multi-woman matches have really been strong. This match, like many of the other multi-person matches you've seen with the Roxanne, with the Rhea, so well crafted, great pace of action, and I think made some great use of the shared history between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, of course, and a lot of great building with Liv Morgan and Roxanne and their story as well.
Becky walks past a arguing Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Are they having problems? A-Town Down Under?
I don't know if they'd be a team unless they had problems. Yeah.
There's a video of Nikki Bella, and we see Nikki hanging out with Natalia and Maxine, and then Nikki walks up to Kairi Sane, who just storms off, and introduces herself to Io Sky, and they meet.
Yeah, I don't know what this was about. Like, I don't know if it was just a way to tell us that Nikki Bella is here. But this interaction, I mean, unless it's to build to something, I'm sure this got a lot of people scared that they were going to promote Io Sky versus Nikki Bella as the championship match at Evolution, which they did not do. But I'm also don't really know exactly what the purpose of this was, other than to like maybe mix an older figure with a newer figure.
Maybe this is between the genius of the sky and the master of Bella Brains. This could be a collaboration down the road.
Oh my God. I'd love these two to podcast together. That would be great.
Becky Lynch comes out and she immediately says, "What? No, you deserve it chance?" She says, it's really rare I get to celebrate something new because I've done everything. She was supposed to have a great weekend after winning this title and spending it with her hot husband and wonderful child, but it was ruined by Lyra Valkyria, the weird bird lady, as she continues to call her. She says, "I couldn't enjoy my weekend because Lyra so aggressively raised my arm like she was supposed to and nearly dislocated my arm. Then I wanted her to put the belt around my waist and she nearly killed me." And so she wants the crazy bird lady to come apologize and re-raise her arm. So Lyra comes out looking like a zombie, just pacing towards the ring, when Bayley makes her return, reeling from being yanked off the WrestleMania card, and attacks Becky. And then Becky flees to the floor right into Lyra, who sends her back in. Becky avoids the rose plant and runs away through the crowd. So this seems to be the start of something towards Evolution, you would think, in terms of Becky's program. So, we had our disagreement of whether this was going to continue with Lyra or not. And it seems like this is almost like a push. It's like, feels like she's involved, right. But not by herself.
It could be a three-way, but yeah, maybe a bigger match might be a straight up Becky versus Bayley. Although I could see them like running that one back for even through SummerSlam. But Bayley's back. Honestly, I'd kind of forgotten about the reason why she was taken off of WrestleMania, but there was a lot of like.
Well, they did explain, like Becky did take ownership of the attack, so that it all made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to the desk, and the man in the hoodie appears, and it is R-Truth, who stands on the desk. The crowd's going wild for him, and he tells the audience, "Don't let anybody tell you that your voice doesn't matter. They heard, they felt, and they understood, and I'm back because of you. We won, and this was not a work." No, he didn't say that part.
He said, not part of the show.
This was not all part of the show. Ask my son. He says, "Everyone loves R-Truth. He can be too funny, too nice, too forgiving, but not me. And I feel so alive. I'm not a sideshow, and I'm not a gimmick." And he pulls out a pair of scissors. And not since Big Al and Tank Abbott have we had such a concerned look on everyone's face. And then he issued a challenge to Ricochet. I'm glad these were not gold. He takes out the scissors and proceeds to cut off his hair. And the crowd, dude, this crowd gasped. There were people in absolute stunned reactions to this when he cut his hair off. And I thought this was like the greatest reaction. The cutaways were just brilliant here. Like these people were just gasping at what this man was doing to his hair.
I certainly didn't expect it. The man lost a hair versus hair match against himself.
Oh, there were holy shit chants. They were so shocking that Netflix didn't even try to censor them this time.
Oh, wow.
He says, "The truth has set me free. I am Ron Killings. I'm the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Now put some respect on my name." Dude, this is the best promo this guy's cut since he was like NWA champion in TNA. I thought this guy was just awesome in this segment. He has reinvented himself, and I like the fact that he's coming in, because if he had come back, you could have just played the hits and gone back to R-Truth. And you know what?
What's up?
Well, you could have. And it's always going to get a pop. Everyone's going to enjoy him a little bit much more because he had been taken away from you, and it would have been so safe. And instead, they're doing like a real character shift with him. And this may not last super long, but I'm so more interested in this version. And he came out And this was a tremendous promo from Ron Killings.
Yeah.
My takeaway at the end was like, this guy's been really entertaining, but they've also been sitting on someone that they could have had a lot of use over these last like 17, 18 years that he's been here.
Like you said, John, I think the easy expected move would have just been, okay, R-Truth comes back, like, you know, do your rap, do the thing, like continue to like do your funny one-liners and everybody's happy. But whether it was at his request or maybe it was the creative direction that Levesque and his team had, they took this incredible groundswell of support and they're parlaying it into something that is evolving this character, taking somebody who maybe at one point was considered a hard to justify low card act that was making a lot of money to somebody you could potentially see in a main event that could justify that big contract. And of course, you know, having a name that he could take with him beyond his WWE years is probably a really nice bonus that, you know, might have been part of the motivation for all of this as well. But this was so cool and suddenly made Ron Killings into like a very valuable, evolved version of R-Truth. You know, like we've seen this sort of character metamorphosis for people after they've been done with the WWE. All these releases, they go out, now it's almost standard to get like a new video proclaiming, you know, like, hey,
breaking out of prison.
Yeah, exactly. Like we got the Dean Ambrose, John Moxley transformation, but on WWE TV here. So this guy was able to just show to the same audience that was clamoring for his return, his character shift, his character transformation. So I'm very excited to see what he does after this.
Yeah, the last week, I mean, Ron Killings and Mariah May, they played the game and they beat the system over this last week. Some very like smart
and what does
maneuvers.
This tell you? If you're a talent, if you get released, tweet about it at the very least. You know.
Yeah, and have a son on standby on Instagram. Okay,
that too. Yes. So
great segment.
We have to be getting a new song, right? We can't.
Yeah,
get what's
yeah,
up guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
he should be.
Def Rebel, do your best.
Oh,
all right.
The whole truth. Dun, 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 dun.
I want the guy who wrote the Fraxium rap to write new R-Truth rap.
It's Illings. He's two killings. Oh, God. Balor and JD are with Dominic. Balor asks, is it odd that you're in the King of the Ring and I'm not? Dom says, well, you were in Money in the Bank and that didn't work out. And he just had such a great look delivering this line. So I didn't think you'd mind with me representing the Judgment Day. And Balor thinks, no, I'm not upset. I'm rooting for you. And JD says how him and Balor, they can go for the tag belts now. Roxanne enters and they congratulate her. And then Liv appears and she looks furious. What's everyone celebrating? And she half-heartedly congratulates Roxanne and just storms off. And Balor is just a pig in shit, enjoying everyone falling apart at the seams, and he's the puppet master. At least he believes he is. And I continue to really enjoy Balor in all of these segments, and it's spinning off into all of these other things. It's given Roxanne a great role on television. So I think all of this has worked pretty well for a Judgment Day that definitely, like, post-Rhea, post-Damian Priest, you wondered if this group was sort of going to flounder. And it does feel it's getting its revival over these last, this last period, with Roxanne, I think, being a fun addition for all of these inner group dynamics.
Yeah, as a call up, I mean, they found a tremendous spot for Roxanne Perez, and I think Roxanne, in what little we've seen of her in this role, I think it's a perfect role for her character, and it's made Liv Morgan so much more interesting to play off of. So it's tremendously benefited, I would say, the entire group, but especially these two.
Mm-hmm. And no Carlito. But what we did get was a Mr. Iguana vignette. Mm-hmm. How far away from is this guy from appearing in a 10,000 plus seat arena on Raw?
So to me, the question is NXT or Raw. Like with this video playing on Raw, like, yeah, I could see Raw, certainly.
Maybe he's the mystery next week in the 4-way.
I don't completely discount that. Somebody in the chat room is suggesting like Ron Killings could be one of those spots as well. But he would get a tremendous reaction. Yeah.
He was one of the winners this past weekend.
Oh my God.
I mean,
yeah.
he's You know, and
He
credit
won
to
his own. He won his own Money in the Bank.
Totally, absolutely, and I think honestly I think Lince Dorado, like his spots in that match with the Yeska, I think that helped too. Like that just helped get that.
I would love to see Lindsay back, like as part of the LWO. You know, like he
could be like he's already under contract there as a coach, and you know he could moonlight elsewhere. The Seth Riders are in their office, and they explain that this is an all-out assault. They're going to win Money in the Bank and the King of the Ring.
Yep.
So that's
because Reed and Breaker are in the
so
bracket.
they'd all be shooting. Well, I guess they have multiple targets. They could go for multiple belts.
Yeah, there's like 10 different belts. They could go for the women's. They could go for like NXT. Yeah.
Who's that El Hingo? Del Vikingo.
Del Vikingo. Yeah.
Dominic, Penta, Braun Breaker, and Sami Zayn in our King of the Ring 4-way match. This was great. Penta starts off with a dive. Braun's just running roughshod over everybody. At one point, he goes for a cover on Dominic, but stops to deliver push-ups. The Mark Hominick spot, of course. And then they finally gang up on Breaker, the three of them. Braun takes Zayn and just slams him across. This was like Matt Hughes with Frank Trigg, like right across the ring. Slams him, and then we get punches from Braun as Cole yells, "Pound and ground." We got a pound and ground call.
You know what? I guess what was the MMA commentator that was there for a week? Who am I thinking of?
Not Jimmy Smith. He was there a lot longer than a
Jimmy
week.
Smith. Well, that's what I meant.
Oh,
yeah, Jimmy
okay.
Smith never smartened him up.
Well, I guess not.
Pound and ground.
Crowd's chanting Sami Uso. He hits the Arabian moonsault to the floor. Everyone does dives to the floor, including Dom, going for a suicide dive and turning it into a DDT to Penta on the floor, and Braun ending with the flying clothesline over the desk to Dominic. In the ring, Breakensteiner on Zayn. All four men are down. And then Zayn stops the Three Amigos, hits the Blue Thunder Bomb onto Dominic. They had, there was several of these Blue Thunder Bombs where it seemed like there were some hiccups on Dom's part. But anyway, Penta stops a haluva kick, uses the sacrifice and Penta driver, and then Dominic messes up this crucifix, and the ref just wouldn't count this. He's like, the shoulders aren't down. This looks terrible. So he just didn't count. Penta hits a Mexican destroyer to Dom. Braun was leaping in for the save. It looked like Dominic had to get his shoulder up for this. And then Braun runs around the ring, spears Penta when LA Knight appears and hits a blunt force trauma, taking out Braun on the floor, leaving Zayn to hit an exploder and haluva kick, and defeats Dominic in 17 minutes and 5 seconds. Some hiccups with Dom, but overall, this is a really entertaining four-way. As Sami Zayn was excellent. Braun Breaker was just amazing in this match as well. And it kind of, and the explanation, of course, that LA Knight was coming for revenge after the attack by the Seth crew on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Excellent match. I thought all four were awesome, but by far, Braun Breaker, I think, continues to steal the show in these sort of performances. There's so much intensity in everything he does. He really is, like, he has that Goldberg energy. Hopefully his opponents feel it
Don't
a little
die?
bit less. Yeah. Like, I get concerned, man, like seeing any one of these spears and just like they can't feel great. But for my entertainment value, I hate to say it's worth it, because it's like,
Listen,
it's so
Braun
entertaining.
is like a video game come to life, and certainly don't wish this upon anyone, but that guy is absolutely going to have some major injuries. We're working this level of style every single week, and at this intensity and this athleticism and what he does to his body. Like, it is nearly inevitable. Like, he is a freak athlete, and he is hitting the max on those athletic skills in these matches.
I mean, it's his opponents too.
Well,
yeah. But I mean, for now, I think you want to establish somebody, by doing this, and eventually he probably doesn't need to do it as much. But there were 4 people in this match. 2 of them were technically heels, but you can make the argument that you had really 4 baby faces here, because you have Dom, who's about to still feel like he might be turning relatively soon, and Breaker, you can pretty much turn at any second. He's just such a beloved fan favorite, and Sammy winning this at this point, I almost didn't really expect it because it feels like he's just lost so much. But winning this, entering into at least the semis, I almost think it makes him a bit of a favorite heading into King of the Ring.
I think he's going at least to Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
I could see if you want to pull up the bracket, maybe. I mean, Orton.
Sure.
Orton, you would think either they do something significant to protect Orton in defeat, or you could get Zayn and Orton together, which is a possibility. But yeah, I could, given it's Saudi Arabia, and I could see Zayn like getting so close, and then he loses in the finals. And
so Orton and Zayn are on the same side.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It could be Zayn and Orton in the semifinal.
Gotcha.
To determine who goes to Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
But I mean, in a four-way, like you can get to whatever one you want. I'm just looking at.
I think Zayn goes to Saudi, and if Zayn is in Saudi, I think he's almost a favorite to win because I don't know if they'd have Zayn, who at this point is almost like the default like sort of like favorite in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if they'll have him lose there. But of course, like this whole thing is leading us towards this Karrion Kross, potential heel turn that Sami Zayn has been flirting with. Certainly makes the result of this, if Zayn does go all the way through, a lot tougher to predict given the result of the main event tonight.
Did you see the segment with Zayn and Karrion Kross? Because it aired during the commercial.
I didn't actually.
Okay.
I missed it.
So
what happened?
This should have been on the show because it was like to me, it was pretty important. So Karrion Kross congratulates Zayn backstage and says how Zayn finally took his message to heart. He said, you saw an opportunity when LA Knight created one and you seized on it, and says that is the real Sami Zayn. That's a future world champion, and that's a manipulator. And Zayn fires back. He says, I won because I'm good enough, and I'm good enough to become champion, and I'm also good enough to handle you. And he walks off. So this was a really to me, this should not have been just a commercial segment that a lot of people missed. But
yeah, at this point, like, what are they doing with Karrion Kross? Like, and is this intentional? Like, he's purely just his existence is on the internet and not at all on television. Are they? Is it deliberate? What exactly is going on?
Well, I mean, if your goal is to get Zayn to become a heel, like that is the device. It's Karrion Kross. That is the thought, that he gets so close to this title shot but loses, and Kross is the devil on his shoulder. That maybe if you do a match, let's just say it's Zayn and Cody at Night of Champions, and he has an opening, but it's Cody, and he doesn't take it and loses, and that prompts him to start to fall into Karrion Kross's trap here. And that's the impetus for the turn.
Why wouldn't they be showing this on TV, especially at a time where I think Kross has been gaining so much traction that I'm sure they're not stupid to,
Well, they should be. I mean, this should at very least be thrown up on YouTube, because to me it's like Zayn's like one of your main characters, like moving forward, and this Kross thing is has now become like a key part of it as well. But what we did get was Kathy Kelly with AJ Styles, who calls Gable one of the best, and he gives a warning to Rollins and the Judgment Day. If you disrespect me, hell, I'm going to punch you in the face. And I'm going to go tell them that myself. And then we have Kathy Kelly go over to talk to the New Day, who are with Grayson Waller. And they explain that we just defended these belts 2 weeks ago. We need a front runner to become the top contenders, which, to their defense, there are no contenders emerging on this show. Mm-hmm. And we care more about these titles and elevating them. And all of Kathy's questions are asinine.
Yeah.
So
very lame duck division.
They're not wrong. Like, what teams are we talking about here? Waller and Theory are falling apart at the seams every single week. We've been there with the War Raiders. We've done
even
this.
The New Day. I feel like we even rarely. Well, we do rarely see them. Their gimmick is that they never defend the belts, right?
Yeah. Like you got Balor and JD, I guess, wanting to go for the tag belts. That's a weird combo with the New Day, but like that's your tag division right there.
Yeah. No, they definitely need some sort of revamping and some injection of some new blood, I think.
Then there was the video for Asuka's return next week. So she will face Stephanie Vaquer, Raquel Rodriguez, and Ivy Nile. And they've announced Sheamus, Rusev, Bronson Reed, and the mystery person, X. Out comes Nikki Bella, and she gets a big reaction here in Phoenix and discusses Evolution. And she's so happy to see where the division has grown since the first Evolution back in 2018 that they did not follow up on. And she goes to list off all the great women on the roster. And from the name generators that brought you El Hingo del Vikingo, we had brand newcomer that we have not, unfortunately, gotten a chance to see yet, but I guess will be debuting in the coming weeks, Stephanie Vacquet.
Yeah, I cringed pretty hard for her.
I'm excited. Who is this? I couldn't find Stephanie Vacquet on Cage Match, so I'm excited. They should wait till the pay-per-view to debut her.
I mean, maybe that's the pronunciation that's so proper that none of us have heard it yet.
Perhaps, yeah.
No, this was very unfortunate.
So Liv Morgan is furious about this mispronunciation and comes out to Stephanie's defense and says, "You better mention my name." And she says that she is the most talented woman in this division, lists off her accolades, and says that Nikki is lucky that I wasn't there during your era because I would have beaten you too. Nikki is jealous of me and says that I have everything you don't, Nikki. Respect, a title, and a man. And the crowd goes, ooh. Nikki
We're
says,
spreading orders.
Yeah, I mean, this was much like Michael Cole not giving context to the CM Punk Saudi Arabia backstory. We did not get Michael Cole explaining this for those that are not on TMZ on a rotating basis. Nikki says, well, I don't know who your man belongs to, whether it's you or Roxanne. So maybe congratulate Roxanne for taking your title shot or her spot in the Queen of the Ring and for taking your man. So Liv says, Nikki, you're always going to be a reality show diva. And as Nikki is going to leave, she re-enters and is right in position for the Oblivion, which Liv hits and leaves Nikki laying. And yeah, this was a setup for, I guess, Evolution. We'll get Liv, Nikki, and maybe special enforcer Stephanie Vacquet.
The internet will not let her flee with that one. I as an angle, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good bit of trash talk, and I thought most importantly, this whole entire episode showed us a level of fire from Liv Morgan that I personally hadn't seen before. Between this and the segment backstage with Roxanne, I thought like it was some of the best acting that we've seen from Liv to date, and maybe telling us about why she was cast for this new movie for good reason.
That's it. Like I'm not sending my WWE talent to Japan to do excursions for Joshi companies. I'm sending them to Japan for acting excursions, okay? And then they come back and look at them. This was Liv's N1 victory tournament, okay?
I mean, you can even argue somebody like Liv might be doing more acting than actually wrestling, on a week-to-week basis on these sort of shows.
I mean,
yeah,
she
like,
is.
like in these Judgment Day
A lot of
segments
these
and
people
whatnot.
are.
And honestly, once your wrestling is at a certain level, the thing that's going to break you to another level is not necessarily better wrestling. It's better acting. And I thought she had a really great performance, here today. So Liv versus Nikki, it's not a match that I think any of us expected. But if you're going to feature Nikki Bella, which I think they should, I think she maintains a lot of crossover appeal for maybe a certain demographic that most of the internet people who maybe even listen to this podcast probably don't really care about. But I think she's worthwhile to feature on a show like this. And Liv Morgan to me is somebody who has the star power and also I think has the great very good in-ring ability that she could carry a Nikki Bella who hasn't been in practice for a while, at least not on a consistent level, to a probably solid match, I hope.
They officially announced Cena and Punk for Night of Champions. So we already have the 3 matches between this and the 2 finals for the King and Queen of the Ring. And then they show highlights of all the damage Jey Uso has taken over the past week to set up our main event with Jey and Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther is 3-1 in their previous singles matches. And this match certainly had a story attached to it, with Jey being destroyed over this last week. And he's coming in. Michael Cole has heard rumors of internal injuries that Jey is dealing with. And Gunther, the intrepid detective, ripped off the shirt of Jey to uncover taped up ribs, and Gunther just went after him. But early on, Jey is immediately going for the sleeper and trying to catch Gunther with it. And this was the weapon of choice for both men throughout this match, each wanting to submit the other, playing off of the WrestleMania finish. So I will say this was a really long match, and long matches for Jey, they do get to a point where the audience is invested in them by the end. And I would say they got there from at least a emotional standpoint for the end of this. And of course, you got the finish that everyone's going to remember. But I'll say, like, the middle part of this, Jey to me is just not the most dynamic babyface in a lot of these scenarios. We saw it on Saturday with the long drawn out selling with throughout the tag match at Money in the Bank.
And in this match, you at least had Gunther on the other end. In that match, you had Cena and Logan Paul, who really cannot really hold their own in that scenario.
Yeah, not a stellar outing on Saturday. Like, this is like you're watching a show like this, and we're going from a match where we're just watching someone, and maybe I do think it's a fair comparison. Like, we are watching this show, and you see someone like a Sami Zayn, for instance, of in that babyface in peril role. And that's just not the level of performer Jey Uso is. And I was not even advocating that you end this title reign, because Jey Uso is super over. And that supersedes whatever quibbles we're going to have about the actual match quality. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have been necessarily like jumping to take the belt off this guy, because I can see with my own eyes, he's a new star. I like that they've gotten all the way behind him. And everyone has reacted to this guy, and that to me supersedes everything. Mm-hmm. But we got to this point, like later in the match, they did like explain this. Like, Gunther just goes after the ribs after ripping the shirt off, and it's Jey just trying to keep his head above water. He'd go for the Uso splash. Gunther kicks out. Then it's Gunther attacking with power bombs, and Gunther hitting a spear for a 2 count. And Jey will not go down from clotheslines. He goes back to the sleeper, and Gunther reverses. And he pulls Jey away, and he drags him to the ground. And Jey fights his way up, only for Gunther to pull him right back down to the ground. And he's in the center. And this is when the audience, they're so believing that there's no way Jey can't get out of this sleeper. But then his eyes close, and the referee calls it off, and Gunther wins. And we get this great shot. Gunther on top of the world in the middle of the ring, holding up his belt, giving us that Gunther grin. And then we go to Jey, who is down on the floor selling with his son right next to him. Now, ex-champion Jey Uso. And that's how we ended things. Obviously, like no Rollins involvement here. And we just got the straight up title switch. And yeah, it makes it really... I would say, like, watching this match, I didn't think they were going to go forward, at least not like this. I did not see, like, it seemed that most people thought of the available scenarios, it's either Jey retaining or it would have been Rollins coming out of this. I don't know how many people thought a Gunther straight up clean win was going to be in the cards for this match.
I certainly didn't. Yeah, I would say this finish was even surprising to me. I thought at the very least they would tease the cash in, if not actually executing the cash in here.
And they built everything around Jey to expect that cash in at the end, the way this was being laid out.
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is this a bit of 4D chess? You know, like, we're gonna make the audience think there's going to be a cash in, and there's not going to be a cash in, and that's going to be a surprise. Don't know, but it was an effective surprise to me. It was a pretty clean win. Of course, though, they're going to blame it on Jey's injuries, and we'll see who feels those repercussions. I thought the atmosphere was really strong for the match, and I thought they did a good job telling us the rib story throughout. I thought it was satisfying enough for a TV match. I didn't watch the commercials because I was catching up on the show, so that might have made me enjoy the match a little bit more too.
I was all up to speed for this match.
Yeah. But doing the title change now is fascinating because it's Gunther as champion. What does this set him up for in the next few months, you think?
Well, is it Goldberg going for the title in his retirement match? Like, do they think like that's more of a hook, is adding the title to this for television on top of it next month in Atlanta?
I guess I was always of the opinion that I didn't think that match needed it, especially if you're trying to sell me on the idea that this guy is leaving right after this match. Is he going to ruin
what if
wrestling?
This is the playway? I think I've got it, okay? Gunther will accept the match with Goldberg, but I want to air in prime time for my home of Austria, and I want Saturday night's main event to air at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Head-to-head with All In.
That's the play.
That's the play.
Okay.
No, I think like there's not really a reason to have Gunther on this Saudi Arabia card unless you're going to just do the snap rematch with Jey, which I will say, like, fine that they did this. I'm not clamoring for the rematch with these two. I'm very curious what Jey, the follow-up with him is, because this is a legitimate star they have built up this year. It's ending the title reign to me. Like, I don't know how you look at this title reign. It felt like it was almost like they wanted to get to the period where this was not like just a snap decision to get the belt on him, and then we're racing to get the belt off of him. But I thought they were certainly going to ride this out a little bit longer than a month and a half.
Well, Sami Zayn always seemed like the destination for me, you know, and if he doesn't, unless Jey gets the belt back, that the struggle of Sami Zayn having to potentially beat his best friend to win the championship is no longer there.
Sammy winning this tournament and then going to face Jey, like that's one play you certainly
exactly, yeah, because there's that remaining block. Now Cody is on one end of the brackets. We have potentially a Jey Uso who could be entering as X next week, and that would potentially have them meet Sami Zayn. So you could still tell the story, but I always thought that would be a championship story. Now it doesn't seem that way. And that way
you could also get to like Cody and Jey in the semifinal as well.
Cody and Jey, interesting, yeah. So the other element, of course, is with Gunther as champion, what does that mean for Seth Rollins with the briefcase? I mean, a heel going after a heel doesn't seem as likely to me, but obviously
on both accounts with both belts.
Right. But of course, they could tell any story they want. And Gunther, we've already seen like has had flashes of like turning as a babyface for an audience depending on the evening, right?
Yeah, this might force them to have to go that route, but I think you do have to go through this Goldberg thing at this point. Like I think it would be a real. I do not see them avoiding that match after the angle and just going a different direction. Like that's my thought, is that it's Goldberg going for the title in his retirement.
I think Saudi could be a real candidate for that match. I mean, let's think about what we have Saudi so far. We got CM Punk versus John Cena, the two finals of the King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring tournaments. That opens the room for one more. Could be another. Well, it's a night of champions, so it has to be a championship match.
What about Mr. Iguana?
Bailey, Becky will probably be there. Or wait, that might be Evolution, actually.
Dude, they have to build up Night of Champions, Saturday night's main event, and Evolution, all in this span of time over this next month.
Well, Gunther could also be Saturday night's main event.
Oh, I think it will be Saturday night's main event, given Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah, I would see that as the destination. There you go. That was Raw, and certainly a lot coming out of this show in terms of the follow-up to Money in the Bank, riding you got a title change. I think Ron Killings was a big part of the weekend, and you followed up with a really strong angle with him. You kicked off the Nikki Bella Liv Morgan program, and you set up Cena and Punk. Yeah. So, overall, I felt this was a pretty, a engaging episode of Raw, and I thought both four-ways turned out well. Like WWE, they've got their playbook down for their multi-mans or multi-womans, and it's rare that they like whiff on these multi-person matches, and the audience like loves those formula of matches that WWE puts together, and you're going to be getting a bunch of them over the next week.
The talent is so strong, the roster is so strong, and I think the storytelling, for the most part, coming out of these four-ways, even for people who aren't winning the matches, tends to be really strong. So I don't really feel the fatigue myself. I'm actually quite enjoying all of them. We only have I guess, how many more left?
Well, two more four-ways
for each bracket.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. So four-ways we have left.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. That's fine.
Right. All right, everybody. We're gonna say goodbye on the YouTube channel, but I have a I have a huge secret to tell Wai. I'm going to wait till we're off YouTube.
Oh my.
It would get us thrown off here. But we have your feedback. We have a bunch of feedback to get to. So as I see that big number, we're in double-digit territory. We're going to say goodbye on YouTube, but continuing at the cafe.
Please like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers over on YouTube. And if you happen to really like us, consider signing up for the XL editions of these shows in the Post Wrestling Cafe, or if you become a member on YouTube or Apple Podcasts if you'd like. 38 minutes of news discussion, talking a lot about R-Truth prior to this particular show, and a lot of discussion probably in the feedback section we're about to get into right now.
Yeah, if we get to 20K, I'll pull out a pair of scissors and I'll cut my hair off. Okay, if we get to only if we get to 20K. All right, on to the forum we go.